This one will be a little bit hard to believe, but the fastest way for an indie dev to make a great and profitable game is to stop coding for a while and obsessively play games instead, like 100 hours in the genre that you want to make. Does this sound like procrastination to you? Well, I think to your friends and your family, they will definitely say so. You might even feel that yourself, but this will 10x your chance of success. The hundreds or thousands of hours you work to create your game may be useless if your game doesn't feel right to the players. And the only way that you can make it feel right is to understand the genre so deeply that you yourself feel the enjoyment in your bones. You can watch 200 YouTube videos, you can listen to every GDC talk and still make a game that feels off. And players smell inauthenticity. You solve this by playing great games in the genre, not until you just know the fun, until you feel the fun yourself. When you've lived that feeling yourself, you have a fighting chance to recreate it. But don't copy it, just recreate it with your own twist. If you skip this step, you'll make another game that's just a boring, forgettable entry. So step number 1 is to play the great ones. This is a deep dive. Pick the top 2 to 3 games in your genre and then play them until you think you're like in the top 10%, not casually, obsessively. Take notes. What moments made you laugh? Or what moments made you at least giggle? What made you scream in frustration and then immediately try again? What makes you want to play again and again? And what actions feel rewarding when you play? And what events annoy you? Growing up, I played tons of Command & Conquer, Red Alert, Warcraft 2, Starcraft 1 and 2, Civilization, and a whole bunch of other RTS and 4X games. For Line War, we leaned into thousands of hours playing those games, and the lead designer spent 15 years developing his own board game, constantly balancing and tweaking the rulebook. For Unfair Rampage, I played punishing precision platformers like Celeste, the vibrant-looking Bzzzt, and the chaotic platformer Dead Cells, and of course, the Metroidvania Hollow Knight. I played them over and over to understand the movement, the jump trajectories, level design, pacing, progression, balance, challenges, and rewards. I also analyzed developer interviews so I could understand what and why they made certain choices. I released a video on this topic a couple of years ago, and with all the takeaways from the level design, the lore, the game design, and the controls. Step number 2, mine the reviews like it's gold. Look at the reviews of the biggest success games. Start with the positive reviews and find what people expect. What do they like and even love about those games? Maybe it's butter smooth movements, maybe it's an addictive progression loop, or funny humor. Then move on to the negative reviews and analyze what people dislike and even hate so you can avoid that and find the gap to fill. Maybe it's floaty controls or repetitive levels, or it's too grindy. Every negative is an open window. Nowadays, you don't have to do this manually. You can ask a chatbot to analyze the comment, either by directing it to the Steam page if it has that capability, or bulk copy and paste reviews into the chatbot and ask it to summarize the good and the bad. But if you really want to understand the feedback, you should take the time and read through and take notes. In 2026, the market is so crowded that fixing what others got wrong can be the differentiator. Claire Obscure Expedition 39, probably saying that wrong, but it blew up partly because it addressed the boring turn-based complaints that haunted the turn-based RPG genre for years, with real-time mechanics in combat. Step number 3 is to know exactly what's expected, because every genre has unwritten rules that players expect. For platformers, it's responsive controls, no or little inertia, tight jumping feel, clear feedback when you die. For RTS games, it's intuitive unit commands, rock, paper, scissors balance, and satisfying base building. For roguelikes, it's meaningful runs, juicy upgrades, permadeath that doesn't feel cheap. You don't have to follow every rule, but you must know them so you can break them on purpose. If you violate expectations without delivering something better, well, you're doing more harm than you're doing good. Know the standards and exceed or cleverly subvert them. This is why you should start with a tiny scope on the indie dev ladder, and get a head start by making a game in the genre that you already love and understand. You'll have a difficult time explaining to your wife or your husband that you're doing research while playing. They'll never believe it. And it'll feel like you're cheating, but without playing, you won't succeed. So endure the process and the sly comments. If you're serious about the game you're making, here's your cruel action that you must take upon yourself right this minute. Pick your target genre, spend the next 7 days playing only the top games in it for a minimum of 20 hours. Then read 100 reviews, 50 positive and 50 negative. Write down The one feeling I want players to have. Number 2, the 3 things I will never do because players hate them. And 3, the 1 expectation I'm going to exceed. As always, you're welcome to drop your findings in the comments. When you have an idea for your game, when you know the genre and you know what people love, do you really need a game design document to get started? I get that question all the time, so check out this video where I break down everything that you need to know about game design documents and if you even need one.